What's up, guys? It's the one and only African superstar back at it again. Yes, yes, yes. Due to the tremendous outpouring on my last two live streams, I was like, you know what? Let me try to do my best and come a little regularly. I have a few topics that I can talk to you about during this upcoming week. And this topic is one of them. Yes. So I'll be waiting for you in the chat room. Big shout out to the African superstar family. Guys, I am the one and only Gina Ifoe, African superstar, YouTube personality, musician, actress. I am a YouTuber. We are trying to currently grow this channel. So we need viewers like you to do that. When you come into the chat room, please be on code. Our code is get into the chat room. Let us know where you're viewing. Say hello. We don't start the live stream topics until at least one person is in our chat room. So I'm waiting for the family currently to get into the chat room. Guys, how are you doing? Happy Sunday. I'm back at it again. I've received so many comments on my last couple live streams, and people are like, yo, Gina, we're happy to see you. You know, we've missed you, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, all right, let me do my share. Jennifer Edie, what's up? Big shout out to you. Thank you for being the first in the chat room. I tell you what, I can count on my girl, Jennifer Edie. She kicked it off just yesterday. Today's topic is an unpopular opinion. Okay. Unpopular opinion, I'm bringing it to the channel. Okay, growing old is a privilege. And we should actually celebrate that. We should look at it as the privilege that it is. Because a lot of people, unfortunately, are not having the benefit of long lives or healthy lives. You know, there are some young people out there that are stricken with various health issues, mental, physical disabilities, etc. And those of us that have managed to grow with our health, with our mind, with our faculties, you know, it's such a tremendous blessing. And not only that, you begin to have insight. You see, a lot of times when we reflect over our youth, yeah, we were younger, yeah, we may have had, you know, our parents to take care of us. We didn't have a lot of responsibilities. We didn't have a lot of, you know, financial demands and all that stuff. But a lot of the times we didn't even know what was going on in the world around us. It wasn't like we were young and we could really enjoy that period of our lives. Growing older, there's so much more enjoyment that's involved because, you know, now we have insight. Now we have resources. Now we have, you know, points of comparison. Now we have liberty. You know, some of you guys, when you're growing up, you know, your parents are very strict. You spent a lot of your time in with your parents. You know, I was thinking about a friend of mine who was a preacher's kid growing up. And, you know, they spent most of their time in the church. When they grew up and became an adult, they did not carry on that lifestyle. But, you know, they used to talk to me about how they didn't think it was fair, how they, you know, wanted other things for their lives and blah, blah, blah. A lot of times when we're young, we don't know what's going on. When it comes to ladies, you know, a lot of times we can be naive about relationships. We can be naive about so many things. And honestly, you know, I think this is why a lot of people prey on young people because, yeah, they might be, you know, their bodies might be fresher and younger. They haven't had children and, you know, these kind of things. But a lot of times they're naive to how things go. They're naive to how relationships work. So tonight, that's what I'm going to talk about. Big shout out to the African Superstar family. Get into the chat room, SMP. SMP is our mission statement on this platform: strategy, maturity, and patience. So I'm bringing this because I know that there's such a focal point, especially for ladies. You know, ladies are really made to feel that, you know, their youth is the time of their life. You know, after they get past a certain age, a lot of people will tell them, you know, try to make them feel that they're less than, they're not desirable, you know, in so many words that they are useless. And it's just not true. It's just a lie. And there's so many ladies who have grown to mature ages and they're still beautiful. They still have great bodies. They have so much to offer. There are women who have given birth later in life, perhaps. You know, you don't lose your function when you hit 30 years old, when you hit 40 years old. And matter of fact, if you're wise and you take care of yourself, you can have a very robust and enjoyable, uh, mature life. You know what I mean? So I wanted to bring this message because I personally know some friends, you know, as you get older, you just feel some type of way. People make you feel some type of way. And it's really a privilege. You know, I'm grateful that I've been able to have the life that I have. And, you know, I was also thinking the other day, my mom is in her 70s, you know, and literally my entire adult life currently, I've had the benefit of growing up with my mother. You know what I'm saying? Like, not a day has gone by. She's not been there my entire life currently, over 40 something years, you know? So it's a blessing. I'm grateful that she's had a life of longevity and relatively good health. I'm grateful for that. And some people, their parents grow to be 80, 90, 100 years old. You know, they're able to fully grow up, begin their families and everything while their parents are still there. And these are all attributes of long life. You know, and sometimes people get very wrapped up in their previous years, their past years. And let me just say, guys, hello, newsflash. Big shout out to J Star. I see you in the building. Guys, if you're here, you want to be greeted, let me see you in the chat room. There are some people that are in their mature years. Okay. They're in their 40s or 50s and 60s. All they can talk about when they were younger, when they were 20, when they were married, when they were this, when they were that. Literally maybe a span of a few years, maybe a decade or two. And that has been life defining for them. And now they have spent decades, you know, reminiscing about that instead of living in the real time moment. You know what I mean? Yeah, maybe high school was a high point for you. Maybe university was a high point for you. But really being progressive, it means that there's definition in all of the chapters of your life. You know, there's not one defining decade of your life and things like that. So many things can manifest beyond that. You know what I mean? So I think that growing old is a privilege. I'm aware of that, and I think that's why I enjoy my life, is because I don't feel that I'm losing value. I actually feel like my value now is higher than ever. You know, I am in a position where I have a wealth of knowledge, I have resources, you know, I have a mentality that is just so amazing and so ambitious. These things, you know, not to say the younger Gina didn't have those characteristics, but they weren't fully developed to the way that they are now. You know what I mean? Age, maturity, experience, life has really cultivated a comprehensive critical thinker, and I think that's so amazing. And some of you guys, you know, if you're real and you look at it, you're in such a better position now than you were then, even when you were younger. It wasn't like back then you knew all, you know, the direction to take and the decisions to make, and you know, you couldn't necessarily decipher and read people's characters the way that you can now. These are the privileges that are added to age. Big shout outs to you guys. J Star says black don't crack. Well, some black cracks. If you don't take care of yourself, you might crack. Please take care of yourself. You know, please take care of yourself. Adequate rest, you know, diet, exercise, mental health is so important. You know, reducing your stress, um, trying to, you know, reduce dangerous proximity to situations, people, and things. You know, yeah. Big shout outs. Jennifer Edie says, we are celebrating my grandmother's 100th birthday next month. So this message is really relevant. I mean, you know, um, being able to reach 100 years old, you know, is a privilege. Now, I do recognize some people get health problems as they age. Sometimes they're preventable, sometimes they're not. But I know one thing's for sure, you know, always making efforts for the right thing pays off. Okay. There's never anybody who didn't, you know, prepare themselves that regretted being prepared, regretted trying to take those steps. You know, if you start cultivating good routines and good practices in your youth, and you maintain those things as you age, they will still be a part of your lifestyle. And I personally worked with elderly people. I've worked in a care home, I've worked with mentally ill people and things like that. And one thing's for sure, if you don't move it, you lose it. You will deteriorate more the less active you are, the less interactive you are, the less stimulated you are. We've all seen those cases of elderly people that are still going to the gym, that have, social lives, that are still very active and very intellectual and still contributing to society, their family and friends, is because they keep themselves engaged. That is really the fountain of youth, is you have to keep yourself engaged. I mean, it's no different than any other your aspirations. You must keep yourself engaged. If that's probably one of the reasons some of you guys watch me here on YouTube, is because you have aspirations of the continent. You have aspirations of Ghana, and I can provide you some of that inspiration, motivation, or information that you need to stay motivated about your journey on the continent. It's very, very important that you stay engaged. You know what I'm saying? If you're losing steam, because sometimes maybe you might, sometimes you might look at the big picture and think to yourself, oh my gosh, I haven't done this, I haven't done that, or you see young people and you're thinking, oh my gosh, this guy's only 50, 30 years old and he's done this and that. And, social media is real good for that. You see, millionaires that are like 25 years old. You see people that seem so progressive in their lives. And to that, I say, again, everything that glitters is not gold. A lot of what you see on social media is not even accurate. It's not even true. But in some cases, you live by the gun, you die by the gun. Some of these young people, they squander their wealth because they don't know. They getting this big, huge money and they're thinking in their minds, it's going to continue. It's going to continue. I've seen a lot of stories on YouTube of these kids who've gone viral, who, have had brand deals and all this kind of stuff and ended up losing everything because poor money management, the friends around them, not, just in their mind thinking that this money is going to be continuous and not making the wise decisions. A lot of times that stuff goes with your youth because you literally don't know. You've never had some of these situations before to navigate. Once you get older, you can watch out from the beginning, or you know how to recalibrate if you get yourself into a situation because you've experienced it, or you've experienced it via observation. Your friends and family, your siblings, whatever, have been through these things. Getting older is a privilege. Getting older is a privilege. What's up? What's up, guys? I'm trying to get these comments. Yes, greet me in the chat. I am not aware of this situation. And it's not with my topic either. But no, I'm not aware of any flooding in the US. Not aware. So I don't know. I can't speak on that. Big shout outs. What's the ATM International? Good to see you there. Shout outs to the family, guys. Shout outs to the family. Today I'm talking about this unpopular opinion. There's a lot of focus put on the youth, and that can make those of us that have gone past those ages feel, some type of way. You know what I'm saying? Feeling like we're no longer relevant, or we're no, this and that, or we're no longer valuable, and it's just a lie. It's just a lie. Sometimes I wish that when I was younger, I had the mind that I have now. You know what I'm saying? Like, because the mind that I have now is so amazing and so sharp that, yeah, if I would have had this when I was younger, I think, yeah, I would have made better decisions in some situations. I would have been able to expedite the path that I'm currently on because I would have made those decisions, but I didn't have that information. I didn't have this mentality. Where I stand now is a cultivation of the past and things that have happened that has brought me to this. How would I know that the motherland was going to hold the answers for me? How would I have known that when I was younger? I had no idea. Nobody was promoting me to travel there. Nobody was promoting me to move there. I wasn't getting information through school or the media about opportunities that were there or any of this stuff, you know. So I think that for those of you guys that lament getting older, you know, I know some people that are just like, oh my God, getting older is so hard. Oh my God, my body's changing this and that. And, you know, I'm lonely and, you know, it's woe is me. You got to change your mentality. You know, you got to change your mentality because getting older is a privilege. There's somebody right now, okay, laid up somewhere in jail, whatever situation, sick, wishing for health, wishing for long life. There's somebody who's terminally ill that they've been given, hey, you've got 6 months left. You got 2 weeks left. You know, you guys ever seen some of those cancer, you know, cancer victims and stuff like that? You know, they got marathons named after them, charities named after them. They died when they were like 30 years old, 35 years old, breast cancer, you know, victims and things like that. People that had kids, families, people that had wealth, people that had fame. Your life is over when your life is over. And some of us have been so fortunate to go through this life without any major events. You know what I'm saying? Regarding our health, regarding our mental health, regarding our physical body, we have literally been okay for decades. It's such a tremendous blessing, you know, and it also gives us more opportunities to achieve our dreams. You see, the more time you're blessed with, the more time you have to get your dreams accomplished. You know, I'm a musician right now. I have so much hot new music for you guys. You know what I'm saying? And I think to myself about people like Marvin Gaye, you know, who only got to put out a few albums before his untimely death. You know, people like Tupac, people like Biggie, people like Aaliyah. You know what I'm saying? So much talent, and the world would want to hear from them. The world would want more materials from there. It's not there because they died young. They died young. They died tragically. Some of them died violently. You know, they were superstars. They had a lot of money. They had fame, but their life was cut short. You see, and that just legitimizes how valuable your life is. Now, with all that being said, okay, it's important to utilize the lifetime. It's important to utilize the lifetime, guys. Hello, if I'm talking to anybody, let me see a number one in the chat room. It's beautiful that you have lifetime. Yes, you're fortunate. It's a blessing. It's a privilege. Okay. However, it's important that you utilize the lifetime. Do something. Do something with your life. Impact the world around you. Shout outs. Only Jennifer Edie heard that point. Hello. Utilize your lifetime. Okay. Otherwise, your life is going to be comprised of eating, drinking, sleeping, and worrying about what to wear. That's it. If you don't create an impact on this world, it's almost like you never existed. Utilize the lifetime. Utilize the lifetime. You know, I think sometimes about Marvin Gaye. I talk about him. He's one of my favorite artists, and I think it's so profound because Marvin Gaye died a few months before I was born. Okay, so my entire lifetime, and I've been loving Marvin Gaye and read about him and learning about his songs and his life story and all that stuff, because in his lifetime, he created timeless music. He is eternal. Okay, people know and love Marvin Gaye that were not even alive when he walked this earth. There's a lot of people like that. The only reason that we know them is because of the impact that they left. Now, there are millions of people that have lived and died, and we don't know anything about them. And don't think you need to be famous to be impactful. It's not true. Don't think that you got to be a world leader to be impactful. It's not true. You know, you can be impactful in your vicinity, in your realm, among your friends and family. You know, if you're bold, you can utilize social media to have an even larger imprint. I know through social media, I have connected with many of you guys that otherwise you would never know me. You know, the probability of us crossing paths, being in the same place at the same time, very, very slim. The, advent of social media gives you another opportunity to be productive. You know, I come on social media not for superficial reasons. I come on social media to be impactful. Yes, I want to help my people. I want to provide a perspective that is severely underrepresented on the social media. You know, a lot of people like to talk about Black women are this and Black women are that. A lot of the images projected of us out there are not flattering. You know, they're not sophisticated, they're not educated, they're not positive, they're not proactive, they're not Pan-African. You know what I'm saying? A lot of what you see of Black women in the media, especially the mainstream media, is minstrel show. You know, they're either the sex kitten, they're either the Oreo, they're either the ghetto bitch, they're either the stereotypical, whatever. Very little representation of the sophisticated, educated, classy, articulate Black women. I come to be impactful in this space, and I know that I am. I've already begun to make that impact. So when my physical life is no more, my work speaks for my lifetime. And that's why I'm prompting you guys to understand that growing older is a privilege. It's not a burden. It's a privilege. However, you need to utilize the lifetime. Make the most of the time and the blessing and the gift that you've gotten. When you think about your legacy, what is it? Does it look the way you want it to look? And it may not be legacies. Not, I passed on, $10 million to my kids. I gave them a mansion. Yeah, all that's fine and good. But what else did you do? What else did you do? What were your interactions like with people around you? What were your interactions like with your kids? What were your interactions with, those your colleagues at work, or what did you do? Were you effective? Were you productive? That is your legacy. That is what is defining. What's up, ATM? And thank you so much. Yes. The number one is for those of you that heard me, that I said, utilize your lifetime. Okay. You right now, everybody I'm talking to currently has the gift of life. Okay, because the dead man, the dead woman, they can't hear me or watch me on YouTube. So everybody watching me right now has been blessed with the gift of life currently, today. Utilize your lifetime. Bring the dreams to reality. Do it. Those of us with our interests on the continent, do it. Trust me. Trust me. Your action in this area is so impactful. Trust me. I've literally heard, at this point in my life, I've literally heard from, let me say, dozens of people. Okay. Personally, dozens of people, either emails, calls, in person, in the airport. Gina, you really inspire me. Gina, I love you. Gina, you motivate me. Gina, you're the reason I went to Africa. You're the reason. Dozens of people. Now, if I incorporate all the comments on my videos, thousands of people have communicated to me my impact in their life. Okay, my influence, because our people are greatly influential. My influence to promote people to go to the continent. Okay, those of you with the heart and the minds to do it, please do it. It is literally so profound an impact in your family, in your environments, among your peers, and all of that. Trust me. A lot of the people, especially people that are heckle you or the people that harass you or give you a tough time, those are the people watching you the most. Those are the people that really need to see you winning in your endeavors on the continent. Those are the people that really, really need to see it because they are wrestling. They're having a conflict of interest. There's a part of them that's interested and curious, but then they want to, on the other end, nah, I ain't really into that. I'm not, they wrestle. They're going through an internal battle. Okay, because again, world travelers, no world traveler I've ever met in my life has ever told me negative things about the continent. They've actually promoted me to go. They've actually ventured onto the continent before me. But always the people that have no context of the continent are the ones that try to discourage you. Those are the ones your impact. Those are the ones that your impact is going to be most powerful with because you got to think about it. Okay. You guys see me here on YouTube. We don't personally know each other, but in your own personal circles, you might be the only one that is interested in the continent and having the tenacity to actually venture on. It's very, very influential and impactful to the immediate people in your world. I know people that had such a negative impression of the continent, and that impression has changed partly because of me, because they know me and they see how I'm moving on the continent. And they see, I personally had a lady I used to go to church with several years ago tell me, she always had a negative impression of Africa and all these things. And she said, but Gina, I personally know you and I see you over there. I see what it looks like. I see your pictures on social media. I see your music. And, you have shown me a glimpse of what I've never seen on the continent. You see, and that's why I'm just saying, we need to be mature in this life and we need to be impactful in this life. Okay, each one teach one. What you do, it does impact on other people. I know that in the Western world, we have a very individual outlook, and it's all about me, and what I want to do. But the truth is, we do have 6 degrees of separation. We do connect and impact with other people, interact with other people all the time. And if we want maybe perceptions of the continent to change or things like that, we want progress on the continent, we have to actually take it upon ourselves to contribute to that change. Because there's not going to be any mainstream, campaigns to change the image that they have delegated on our continent. No. Just like Year of Return became so wildly popular because individuals began to promote it. Individuals went to Ghana and then started showing their videos, and then the celebrities went to Ghana, and then the music festivals were there. That's what made Year of Return pop. I remember 2019, the year of return. I went to Ghana twice, okay, which I had already been frequenting Ghana, and I remember when I first went that year, which was around the summertime. I met some Black Americans that were there, and they were asking me about Year Return, if I had heard about it and all this stuff. And that was the first time I had heard about Year Return. I was in Ghana, and I met some of them because one of my friends was a tour guide and took me with him for an event. So all these, at that point, I think there might have been about 10 or 15 Black Americans there, and they were all there on a Year of Return tour and things like that. And you see, the word of mouth of Your Return is what really blew it up, because the mainstream reporting on it was an after fact. Oh, so many, tourists have flocked to Ghana. It was never a proactive, 2019 is the Year of Return. Ghana is inviting you. It was a reactive response to us going there, and the tremendous influence and popularity that the word of mouth created. That is what made Year of Return so big. So I've digressed a little bit from the original topic, which is growing older is a privilege. Okay. Society makes it, especially the pressure on ladies is unreal, to look young, to, I mean, women are doing so many things to appear youthful, augmenting their bodies and things like that. I saw a picture of Kris Jenner a couple days ago. I think her birthday just passed and she's in her 70s. And obviously she doesn't look like a typical 70-year-old, white woman, because she's had a ton of plastic surgery, not just her, but her children. And so, she doesn't look, she looks definitely a woman, much less her physical age. And I thought to myself, it's just so unfortunate that women are going under the knife, to try to recapture the looks of yesteryear, when a lot of times, if you take care of yourself, your aging is also very beautiful. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, there are a lot of women that are still stunningly beautiful as they grow older. They still have beautiful looks, their features, as long as, I think, you take care of yourself, you exercise, you rest, these kind of things, and try to mind your health. Even as you get older, you still are attractive. Obviously, I feel that I look a lot like I looked when I was a bit younger, but obviously there are still some differences, but I'm still a beautiful woman. You know what I mean? The same way my mother is a beautiful woman, even though she's now in her 70s. Does she look the way she was when she was 21? No, but she's still beautiful. And I just think that we need to be more comfortable in our skin. But in addition to the gift of aging is utilizing the time. You know what I mean? I am definitely a very solutions oriented platform, and I'm always going to promote you guys to be boots on ground. You must utilize your time. You know what I mean? Utilizing your time, you can accomplish so much in a small space if you are utilizing or maximizing that time. You would be surprised. Things that you have stretched over 5 years or stretched over a decade because you did a little bit here and you did a little bit there and you started and you stopped. You'll be amazed that if you spend a year on task, how far and how much progress you could actually accomplish because you didn't dilly-dally with the time. And that's very powerful to a lot of us at this stage of our lives, because we need to be effective. We're moving to the continent in our 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. You know what I'm saying? We don't have that time to waste if we're really trying to be impactful, if we're really trying to leave an imprint on this world. We need to utilize all of our time. Period. Because the other thing is, we don't know the end. We don't know the span that we have. We know that, okay, today I got it. All right, today I got it. You know what I'm saying? Today I got it. We don't know if tomorrow we're going to have it. We don't know if 2 years from now we're going to have it. The gift of life is like that. So big shout out to the African Superstar family. I literally had about 3 of you in the chat room. So let me just tell you guys. On my channel, I have a code. Okay. It is an interactive platform. I don't come here all the time. So when I do, I really, really appreciate that you would get involved, because after all, that's a live stream. You know what I mean? It makes it so much easier to talk and engage with you guys when it's a dialogue, not just a lecture of me, telling you this and this and this. I do appreciate those of you guys that were on code, that were in the chat room, and I want to encourage the rest of you to get on code. I mean, or just don't come on my platform, because it's so annoying. It's so annoying seeing 15 viewing and seeing 1 or 2 in the chat room. It's like, can you understand? Can you comprehend the words that are coming out of my mouth? I speak in English. And so, it's just, it's something that's free. Shamchu, I see you there. Thank you for getting into the chat room. Big shout outs to the family. Special shout outs to those of y'all that get on code. I really appreciate it. I love it. We are nearing 7K. So I want to promote any of you guys, any of my viewers that are not